Welcome here to an all-new edition of the Dolphin Dive, where we have the opportunity to dive into the stories of student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with LeMoyne College, here with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and Dan Tortora Broadcast Media. I am very happy to have picture-in-picture here your newest head coach on the Heights at LeMoyne. We did the exclusive announcement with athletic director at LeMoyne, Bob Beretta, and now we have the exclusive first interview with Ana Pego here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, as she has now been named the LeMoyne College Dolphins volleyball head coach. And I believe I'm going to attempt to say it. Bem-vinda, is that right?
That's right.
Bem-vinda a LeMoyne, Ana Pego, which in Portuguese means welcome to LeMoyne and welcome to the show, Ana.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So bring me into, it's been an interesting road here, right? So when did you first start talking with LeMoyne? How long of a process was this?
Not very long. It was kind of, everything was kind of quick. I know that they posted about the job right after the Division II season, but I didn't really get into it until my season was over. I'm currently at UNC Charlotte, which is a Division I school in North Carolina. So I wanted to finish off my season before I started, seeking other opportunities. But it was a lot of phone calls with Bob, who's been just fantastic. Just seems like a phenomenal guy. Had a chance to visit the school for a day. It was just a very quick trip, but met with President Linda Lamora, which was just a phenomenal meet. She is incredible, just a lot of energy, a lot of passion. That's something that I can mirror myself as a person. She was just great. Had a chance to meet with the coaches, meet with some of the players. It was a quick trip, but obviously I am not unfamiliar with LeMoyne, being at New Haven for about 5 years, 4 years ago. So not unfamiliar with the school, and having been up there for trips before. Know about a little bit about the Jesuit tradition, a little bit about the school from having a couple of colleagues who are at Boston College.
Yeah.
So not completely unknown to me. I know about the culture, I know about the Northeast Conference. So it was a fairly quick process. I think it was a lot of mutual liking. Bob has a fantastic plan for athletics, which is just what I'm looking for in my next the next step of my career. So,
and knowing that you're coming to a school that has been eyeing realignment and reclassification, the potential of going Division I, what does that mean to you, and how much does that play into it, that you're taking over a program that could be Division I potentially?
Yeah, we'll take that step when we get there. I'm obviously familiar with Division I athletics, which is what I've been doing for the last 4 seasons. I know how the ins and outs works with, in terms of scheduling and in terms of recruiting. Been very successful doing all of that here at Charlotte. But I'm gonna enjoy taking one step at a time, going back first in the Northeast, potentially, right? You never know what can happen in 6 months. Yeah. But whatever the challenge is, I'm ready for it. I think the Northeast Conference is a great conference in terms of competitiveness, and moving into a Division I conference is just going to be as tough. So I'm excited about the possibility. Obviously, going back into Division II and being a head coach is exciting, but then, becoming a Division I head coach is even more exciting. But whatever it is, whatever happens, we'll take it as it goes.
Ana Pego here with me on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, the new coach for LeMoyne Volleyball, the head coach now, bringing us into a new chapter, a new era of LeMoyne Volleyball for the Dolphins. Speaking on the world, how small the world is in sports and how kind of ironic it is, you're at UNC Charlotte in Conference USA. They're moving to the American Athletic Conference, and you're moving to LeMoyne, which could move to D1. So all of this kind of like, a very, very strange world that we live in where things can kind of change on a dime. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, you've been a part of UNC Charlotte and on their staff in Conference USA as they're getting set to make a move, and now you're coming to a school that could make a move. Just how ironic that is, that you're leaving one change to change what you're doing, but essentially you could be changing again in the middle of a change.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. It's from my experience here, even here at Charlotte, you start anew, and then everybody's excited for something that's new. So I think it's a good perspective just to begin with. I think it's good for recruiting. The program becomes more attractive to young players. And then you shift your focus even from training to be more like that conference. One of the things that I find is that, in volleyball, a lot of conferences have a lot of similarities in the type of players that they have, whether they are pin dominant or middle dominant or right side dominant, just to get into, a little bit of the specifics. But you start recruiting more like what is going to be successful for that conference. And it's new, I think it's new. I think it's exciting. I think everybody really gets on board of doing something different, traveling to different places, getting to go to different campuses and experience a different culture from different schools. So I think that's pretty exciting. It's exciting for me. It's been exciting because we've known about the American shift for Charlotte for about a year and a half. So we've moved even our recruiting style to fit more into the American. So that has, I have a little bit of experience for that. And for me, changes is awesome. As you know, I am originally from Brazil, and I've come to the US, which was a big change, and I've lived all over the place, even in the US. So I'm always on the move, and I get excited for that.
Ana, what brought about the move for you from Brazil to America? Bring me into that story.
Volleyball, volleyball, it's the one thing that opened all the doors in my life. I've been playing since I was very young, about 8, 9. I started, really competitive. At 11, I was doing, big time country travel. I grew up in a small town in Brazil, and by the age of 13, 14, I went to move in a big city because of volleyball, to be a part of a bigger club. So I was very young. I left my mom, I left my whole family, went to live in a bigger city to be part of a club. And after that, I just really enjoyed school. I was fortunate to attend a good private school in Brazil that was very focused academically, but it was also a sports school, so I could play volleyball as well. And a lot of people that I met was like, yeah, maybe you should go to the US because you still want to go. You want to go to school. I was a science major. I really enjoyed science, and I really wanted to do that. So that's what opened up the recruiting doors for me to come to the US.
So, like you said, volleyball has opened up all the doors for you. Being a former player and having that connection to it, and then getting into the world of coaching and building through what you've done. I mean, we look back on your time, and I know that you were at Alabama State and became a captain while you were there. Then were on the staff as a student assistant coach before moving forward from there and finding your way to New Haven and then UNC Charlotte. What can you say about, the opportunity to not only play, but be on staff at Alabama State, and what that meant to you to see both sides of it?
I would say, originally, I've, like I said, I've been playing volleyball for a long time. So I've known the game for a long time, and I have an interesting perspective because I was a setter, and then being a setter is the person who sees the game from all angles, right? So in terms of volleyball IQ, I've always had, very good knowledge from a younger age. And when I was about to finish my degree at Alabama State, I had really good conversations with my coaches. We developed a really good relationship towards the latter end. And they really welcomed me on board to take charge of, doing some recruiting visits and being a part of the program, because they trusted my judgment in that sense, trusted my volleyball IQ to be a part of the staff, even though I was just very young, just graduating college. I think it gives you a unique perspective of understanding the demands of playing Division I volleyball and being a coach and trying to balance your life and still have some sort of a social life, which is really hard. And I think that gives me a good perspective nowadays to see the different needs of the student athlete that it's playing currently, that is more focused academically, that needs more time to rest, that needs more time for themselves, and worry more about mental health and their physical health. And you still do volleyball. So
Do you kind of look back on your time playing and wish that mental health and all the things that people pay attention to now, that maybe that was a focus back then? Because I feel like for me growing up, if you had like, if something bothered you or you just felt drained, or, when you were doing a lot of different things, extracurriculars, playing sports, in my case, like running a TV station and doing different shows and whatnot, when you're doing all of that, you get tired, and then you have to deal with people. People aren't always nice. Things happen in family. So, mental health, at least for me growing up, people said, don't be weak, figure it out, stop acting like a baby. You're too emotional. People always have a tendency of do that. If something bothers someone, they would go, "Oh, you're just too emotional. I didn't hurt you. You're just weak." And nowadays, people are saying, "Oh no, you got to take care of your mental health. You should take a day off. You shouldn't have to work a 10-hour day and then study and then go to practice." So, do you wish that when you and I were growing up, that maybe people cared about that stuff a little bit more?
For sure, 100%. Yeah, I can only imagine just playing different sports as women and as men. The different things that you hear. You hear, don't be emotional. Suck it up and keep going. There was never much time to take a break and even have the hard conversations, even if you're going through something that was nothing related to volleyball, just family. You really didn't have that space for the game. When you step on the court, it's like you leave everything behind. You cannot bring anything, and that was always a culture, especially for me growing up in Brazil. There was never any space for that. And a lot of times in my life, I wish that had been something that we were okay to talk about, especially because, I left my family, I left everyone in Brazil, and I came here all by myself, so I had really hard time of, different culture, different language, lots of barriers to get through. And I could never really talk about anything. I just had to suck it up and do it, So it's something that for sure, if I could go back in time and be nicer to me, even on the self-talk stuff, even if I had more access to being nicer to myself, I would have changed a lot of things in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm like, now when people are like, "Oh, you could take a day off and just relax." I was like, "What do you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah.
You mean you can relax?" So
What do
I
you
still feel
mean?
like I'm catching up on sleep from 2001. But
Oh,
and 21 years later, I think I've made up for like 2001 and 2, but I'm still trying to make up for 2003 to now. But here with Ana Pego in this exclusive first conversation since accepting the job as LeMoyne Dolphins volleyball head coach here on the Heights. coming to America and, like you said, volleyball opening the door, leaving, and like you said, there's a language barrier, you're leaving your whole family behind. How did you muster up the courage to do that? Where did that courage and that confidence and belief in yourself come from to make such a I mean, there's people that live in Massachusetts and get recruited to Nebraska and find it very difficult to be away from their family. I know people that work down in Disney with me in Florida whose families in North Carolina acted like they were halfway around the world. So, how did you make such a change and be so strong about it in a world that could have been really scary? And I'm sure at times maybe it was.
Yeah. My parents have always been very, very supportive, and I grew up earlier, in the sense of, I left home really early, to go play in a different city, which is about a 9-hour drive from my hometown. So I had to grow up earlier in that sense of becoming more mature and going after my own things. Um, but I would say what really gave me the courage was everything that the sport had taught me. You know, leaving a small town and going to a big city, even in Brazil. I used to live in a 15,000 population, in a small town, and then I went to a 5 million city. So it was a big change, and it could have been scary, but I've played sports for so long, and my coaches have always been inspiring on going through things and doing the hard things, and uh, telling me that I can do it and I can be more and I can do more. And I think that through the sport gives you the confidence, gives you the confidence and gives you the courage to do harder things. Playing volleyball, it's not easy to go on the ground. It's not easy to go pursue a ball that is on the bench, but you go anyways and you throw your ball out there because you become courageous. You become courageous because you have this drive that you don't want to let the ball drop. And that kind of translates into your life. You want more for your life. And then because the sport have given you the confidence and the courage, then you translate that into your personal life and your everyday actions.
That coming here from Ana Pego, LeMoyne Dolphins volleyball head coach, new head coach, exclusive first conversation here on Dolphin Dive inside a Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. When you're at New Haven, a part of the NE10, which LeMoyne is currently a part of in Division II as far as conference goes, you were handpicked by the head coach, Robin Salters, to be her successor. And there was an interesting story of how you were there as head coach, having a fantastic season, and then, had to figure out, some things and then find your way to UNC Charlotte. How did you handle the adversity of having that great news at New Haven and then kind of, share your story, whatever you'd like to share about how you got the job, things were going great, and then there was things you had to take care of, obviously, off the court, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, a hurtful situation, but I believe that everything happens for a reason. And I feel today, looking back, that there were blessings in everything that happened. Being picked to lead the team after Robin retired was probably one of the biggest honors that I've ever received in my life. She had built a phenomenal culture in that program with so many years of championship. I was a part of those championships and I wanted to continue that tradition. But again, I am from Brazil. I am an immigrant. And during that time, I was going through immigration status change. So a lot of things were happening in the country back then, change in leadership in the country, changes in immigration laws. So a lot of things were happening that were outside of our control, outside of my control, outside of New Haven's control. And unfortunately, my status change was denied. So there was nothing that I could have done or that they could have done to keep me. So it wasn't anything that happened that, it was just the way things work. um, but I would say I had a hard time, you know, initially. It was heartbreaking for me, for the team, because I had been working with them since January, and then mid-season for that to happen. That was very unfortunate. But at the same time, you know, I stayed on the sidelines. I helped Robin finish the season because she was not ready to go back and coach anymore. But we worked together just like we did, you know, through the years before, and we've finished it up, you know, still highly ranked in region, you know, hosted the regional tournament. And, you know, I was lucky because I was right there, right? So I could still be a part of that, you know, still hang out with the team. So I could finish the season, and that was important for me. I was not on staff anymore, but I still finished that season. And then after that was, you know, I could cry about it, or I could suck it up and figure out what to do next. So that's what I did. You know, I pursued another route for immigration to change my status. It took forever. It took a very, very long time. It took a lot of effort, a lot of money that I invested in it, but finally it happened, you know, and it happened while I was at Charlotte. So it was a blessing there. And now I'm good. Now I've become a resident, so everything is settled. And again, I prefer to look at the blessings in the middle of all of that storm.
So for you, what have been the blessings of the storm?
Well, I continue to coach, right? That was my goal. That was the reason why I decided to stay in the United States. So when I went to New Haven, I think I mentioned that I was a science major, right? So when I went to New Haven, I was actually pursuing a master's degree in environmental science. So my original goal was to go back and work for a conservation program in Brazil that deals with turtles on the coast. That was my dream then. That was something that I wanted to do, that I was passionate about. And I always, you know, I've always been involved with volleyball. I've coached, I played for so long. So it was just part of who I am, but I never really saw that as a profession, especially because there are very, very few women coaches in Brazil. So that was never something that I really considered, you know. But then I got to New Haven, and Robin saw something in me, and she really spent the time to teach me more and to mentor me as a coach, and invest in me in that sense. That halfway through my master's degree, I said, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. Now I want to coach. So what do I need to do in order to coach? So I changed. I finished that major, and then I got a new major, a new master's in sport management, so that I could be better qualified to coach. So that was the blessing. You know, the blessing is that I put my mind to coach and stay here for that. I found this to be my vocation. It's not even a profession anymore. I think that that's who I am. That's who I've always been. I didn't know that then, but I get to stay here and do what I really love and help guide, you know, other players that, like me, can find the courage to do what they want and go after what they want.
Marine biology.
Yeah.
A little bit different than volleyball.
Very right.
And you talked about looking, you know, at helping turtles back in Brazil in a conservation effort. Where did that passion come from? And who's going to help the turtles now that you're a volleyball coach?
Actually, so I have quite a few of the people that I went to school with are doing a lot of conservation on the Gulf now. So that makes me a little happy. And I still get involved a little bit on the Brazil project through donations, so not really through the work. But so I'm from a state that is not close to the coast in Brazil, but my grandma lives on the coast. So I grew up going to her house, and we used to go to to the beach, and just there were, always the nests covered up. So I used to go and volunteer and be there sitting and waiting for the turtles to hatch and see them coming out. And it's the most beautiful thing ever, in my opinion. And that's why marine biology.
So for you, now that you say, being a volleyball coach is not just a job, it's your vocation, how do you see the turtles hatch in volleyball? How do you see your student athletes grow, evolve, and go off on their own, essentially?
I never thought of that. That's really good. I think, my job as a coach is to help them see more in themselves, and extract more of that outwardly, right? I think there's a lot that can be translated from, developing discipline and drive through training, that can be translated into the everyday life. I think that as a mentor, as a coach, as a mentor, it's important that they know that adversity are something that you can get through, right? And the mentality of never giving up. What I call is, developing a championship behavior for everything, for your everyday life, right? You want to win at everything, and that competitiveness of being better, and win at everything, not necessarily beat somebody else, but win at everything that you do and achieve your goals in that sense. So I think that my job is really to inspire and develop and extract the best that they can give, to see them get in the water and then go do their thing,
It's a good way to put it. Ana Pego here with me on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We do something called rapid fire. And what it is it allows us to talk about literally anything. Doesn't have to do with volleyball. It can, doesn't have to, but it's 3 questions apiece. Nothing's prepared. I can ask you anything. You can ask me anything, but we have to answer the question. Can be music, can be movies, can be hobbies, can be literally anything. So we're going to play some rapid fire in this exclusive first conversation with Ana Pego since being hired as the LeMoyne Dolphins volleyball head coach. I'm going to let you ask me the first question.
What's your favorite Division I conference?
Favorite Division I conference. It's tough. I would say I love the ACC and I love the American. The American I was with. So when I started my company 10 years ago in a few months, because 10-year anniversary this year. So July 20th of 2012 to now. So when I started Dan Tortora Broadcast Media, the American was literally starting. So I called us redheaded stepchildren. We were learning to grow together. And I was arm in arm with the commissioner, Mike Oresco, saying, like, we're going to help each other do this. Like, we're going to be successful and we're going to help each other get there. And I just had my 10-year anniversary. They're going to have their 10-year anniversary in a few months. So I love the American because it's very personal for me. The ACC, because my hometown, Syracuse, is in it. But I would say growing up as a kid, I mean, I'm a Big East kid. And I love the Big East basketball, the physicality of it all. I miss it. I like going to Madison Square Garden. I just saw the Big East tournament here in 2022 and everybody was there except for Syracuse. So it felt weird, but yeah, I mean, I'd probably say the American, which is a part of the old Big East. And then the ACC is half of the old Big East. So I guess in answering the question, I'm kind of saying the Big East, but yeah, that would be my answer.
Okay.
All right. Favorite Brazilian word and favorite Brazilian food. Because I have a favorite Brazilian word.
Yes, I do. Favorite word. It's such a weird question because it's my language. It's like, what's your favorite word in English?
My favorite word in English, I don't know. What would be my favorite word in English? Maybe juxtaposition, onomatopoeia, something that's just, kind of off the wall a little bit. But maybe what would be my favorite American English word? Not triggered. If I could throw a word in the garbage, it would be the word triggered. If I have to hear one more person say whatever makes me triggered, I can't deal with it anymore. I genuinely can't deal with the word anymore. So I guess my better question is, what is my least favorite word? But maybe I'll say this: since you grew up speaking Portuguese, what is your favorite translation in English? Like your favorite, maybe what's your favorite American slang or phrase?
Oh, I never thought of those before. Um, I like what's up,
Okay,
because I think it can be everything and anything and used at any time in the day
okay,
for absolutely everything. So
okay.
if I don't know what to say, I just say what's up,
Yeah, I like that.
very
It's a good
useful.
icebreaker. What'd you say?
Yeah, those are just very useful.
Yeah, no, it is. Favorite food from Brazil.
I do have a favorite word in Brazil. I like the word for rain,
Okay.
which is chuva.
Chuva.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
My
It's
favorite
one of
word,
my
as
favorite
you
things.
know, off the air is it's a word. So when I was working at Walt Disney World, I asked the girls from Brazil because we had a bunch of Brazilians working at Epcot, where I was working in outdoor foods. So I asked them to tell me words that I could use as other words. And so I said, give me like a pretty word that I could kind of like utilize in a different way just to be funny. And so they taught me geladeira. And when you say it, I said, I was like, if there's a candlelit dinner and there's a woman across from you and you look her in the eyes and you're very serious, and you're dressed up nice, and you take her hand and you say, geladeira. It sounds like I love you, right? It sounds beautiful, but it means refrigerator. So
Yeah.
so geladeira, I hope a lot of people that watch this forget what I said, but geladeira is my favorite word because it's such a beautiful word that means refrigerator. So that's my
Yeah,
favorite word.
it's funny.
I like chuva though. That's good. I like that for rain. Okay.
Yeah, good one. Favorite food? Well, favorite Brazilian food, you said?
Yeah.
There's a fish dish, it's a fish seafood dish called moqueca. That's one of the things that I grew up eating at my grandma's, and it's probably one of my favorites.
What's in the dish?
It's fish and seafood, and it has like a kind of a creamy sauce with coconut milk.
Okay. So a little sweet.
Not
No?
sweet. And then you use palm oil for it too. So it's very, I don't know if palm oil is a thing here, but instead of regular different oils, it's palm oil.
Yeah.
um, and it's spicy. It gives a little bit of spice. It's a heavy oil that's spicy.
Okay. I like that. And what's it called again? Say that again.
Moqueca.
Moqueca. Okay. Do you know what type of fish it is?
I know in Portuguese.
Okay. What is it in Portuguese?
It's saltwater fish, right? It's ocean fish. It's called robalo.
Okay. Okay. I like it. See, everything sounds better in Portuguese. It does. It
It
sounds
does.
good.
Actually, food wise, you're not wrong.
No, it does. Food sounds like very appetizing. I feel like vegetarians could hear a meat dish and be like, well, you know what? I'll try it. Give it a shot.
Yeah.
What's your second question for me?
You mentioned, mental health and everything, from growing up. How, now that you're, advocate for sports, how has this transition been about talking about it? Especially when, you're probably dealing with a lot of different coaches, coaches that have been coaching for a long time, and then coaches that are starting just like myself. So
Yeah.
how had the talk been for you?
About mental health?
Hmm.
I would say, for me, it's been a journey because well, I don't think I know that my self-talk growing up was not good. It was very poor. And I was very hard on myself. And bullied in a way that I let seep in, and I had to learn where it was coming from and what it was doing. And I think that it's been a journey my whole life to really work on mental health and just being there for myself, because I always found it easy to be there for other people. And I found myself pushing people further in the race, but I was just standing. And when it came to that, when it came to, good self-talk and positive reinforcement. So I think what I learned is outside noise belongs outside by definition, and that you really have to know who you are and you have to trust God. I when I get confused by something or don't really know where the right message is coming from, I always say a prayer. I say, God, please help me to hear your voice through all the rest. May I know which one is yours, and may I know what voices are not. And if I know which one is yours, then just let me follow that one. So at the beginning of COVID, I was going through a really tough time in my personal life, and there was change that was going on. I was like, you know what? I need to do something for myself. So I got out and I started walking. And when I first started walking, it was out of feeling trapped in the house. It was frustration. It was anger. It was being upset. And it turned into, okay, I'm going to do it again. Okay, 10 days, 20 days, 40 days, 200 days, 300 days. And this healthy mind, healthy body, healthy body, healthy mind. What I realized in doing that was, if I wanted my mind to be strong, I had to be good to my body. And if I wanted my body to be strong, I needed to start thinking better and more clearly. I always pray, but I was not having clarity of mind. And I think when you can have clarity of mind, it changes you. So I am a very peaceful man. I see where stress is coming from. I ask it nicely to leave. And when it doesn't, then I just take it out. I just say, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to stay away from that person or that thing. And I've really just, as I've grown older, I've grown more kind to myself and realized that if you want something done, you really just have to hunker down and do the work. And that's what it comes down to.
Okay, very good.
Let's say that. All right, my second question for you, totally different than what you just asked me.
Good.
If you had to choose, if you could go on tour with 3 singers or bands or a combination of both, who would you go on tour and sing on stage with?
Bon Jovi, number 1.
Okay.
Would be my first pick. Do they have to be alive?
No. No.
Okay. My second one would be Linkin Park.
Okay.
And then well, I have to sing with them.
Yeah.
Well, a little different. I would go with Elevation Worship.
Okay. All right. I like that. So why did you pick those 3?
Well, I think I grew up listening to Bon Jovi. My uncle was a big fan. That's all we listened to in the house. And I still listen to them, even though it's been forever. They're still going, and it's one of the few people that I actually follow on social media to know what they're doing, what's coming out that's new. So it's just a band that I followed for a very long time, and I still like their music. They're still making music. Music like true music, not words throwing out there
Yeah.
to the beat of something.
Yeah.
Linkin Park was my favorite band when I was a teenager. And so crazy story. They were while I was at New Haven, they were coming to Connecticut. They were gonna be at the casino at Mohegan.
Yeah.
In the summer, like later in the summer, and that was actually the year that Chester took his life. So I was never able to see them live. So that's something that I would have loved to have had a chance to do. And then Elevation. So I'm actually in Charlotte. So they're based here, and it's my favorite worship band. Their songs are awesome. They're just so electric and just beautiful music. And I really enjoy it. I think that's one of the things that I listen to the most.
Okay, I like that, and I can appreciate that style of music, that type of music, and the faith that comes with it. So, good answer. I like it. What's your final one?
From Syracuse, right? So, two questions. Your favorite restaurant in Syracuse and your favorite thing to do there.
Well, as a business owner, we partner with a lot of restaurants, so you will genuinely get me in trouble with the answer to this question. So I would say I'm going to pick. So, of the local restaurants I work with, I'm going to pick a dish at each place. If that,
Okay, that's
so,
fair.
so at Avicoli's, I would
I'm gonna
say,
take some notes just so you know.
yeah, write some down. So, Avicoli's, veal parmesan, margarita pizza, barbecue chicken pizza. At 317 at Montgomery, short rib, because it reminds me of working at Disney, and their coconut shrimp. Let me think here. Wildcat Sports Pub, the chicken Caesar wrap, and the Kama fries, which are like curved with salt and pepper. Those are really good. And then I would say at Pizza Man, I like spicy. So they have lemon pepper wings, and which are like zesty. And then they have spicy. They have sweet heat pizza, which has pepperoni and meatball, and it has Mike's hot honey on it. And they drizzle the honey. I take the Mike's hot honey and I literally put it on like jelly, and I put it like all over my, it's insane. It's like I use probably like 75% over the daily like amount that you should use for spice of that, but I love spicy stuff. So I would say that. And I want to make sure I'm not leaving anybody out. So definitely the sweet heat. And then I would say of the restaurants, I also really like a place called Lasca's, and that's out in Auburn. Their food is Italian food, and they have just huge plates and just great desserts, and they have this bread that they make there, and they have a red sauce, but it's not marinara sauce. It's a red sauce, but it's got like it's almost like red with like a salsa feel to it, and it's spicy, so that's really good. And I eat way too much of that. I would say at PB&J's lunchbox, I'd probably pick their chili, and at Mother's Cupboard, all their breakfasts are great. Their omelets are great. I get ham, cheese, and broccoli, and they have really good cinnamon swirl French toast. So I think I covered all my places there.
Okay.
Favorite thing to do in Syracuse? I would say, honestly, I would say to drive out to a spot. We have so many naturally beautiful places. So I'm a romantic. It's just who I am. God made me this way, and I blame him for that. So I like to find places that are quiet. I like to find places on earth that are still quiet. And there's so much adventure with wildlife and just like trees and different pieces of nature and water where you won't find a lot of people. So I value getting in the car, taking a ride, which is something my dad taught me, and just stopping at a place, going where like you just your gut kind of takes you, your heart takes you, pull over and have an adventure. So I'm an adventure seeker of nature and very peaceful settings. So that's what I look for. I look for places that people can't just be like, oh yeah, like everybody's been there. I like to find places that I could find and have as my own, spot.
Okay.
My last one for you. Okay. If I came to Brazil, I've never been there. So if I came to Brazil, and I only know what people have told me from work and what I've seen, if we went to 3 places in Brazil, where would you take me that you think would be an adequate representation of Brazil?
An adequate representation is a
Yeah,
tough one. It's a really big country.
I know.
um, I would say, just Rio, definitely.
Yeah.
Most famous. Culturally, you get a little bit of everything that it's highly publicized about what Brazil is. Um, I'm gonna be biased, obviously, just so you know.
Okay.
So I would say Rio, you're gonna get the carnival experience, you're gonna get all the tourist attractions, the beautiful natural landscape that it's there, and it's absolutely gorgeous, totally deserving, the water, it's nice, and just beautiful people, honestly. It's a beautiful place. Both you get the city attraction is it's a city that caters to the tourist, so there's stuff to do all the time, so definitely one that you can see a lot. So I'm from Belo Horizonte, which is in the mountains, so definitely choose my city.
Okay.
And you get a little bit different because it's not in on the ocean, right? It's not on the coast. So, but we have the most beautiful waterfalls, beautiful hiking places, camping grounds, which is probably something that you don't know that Brazil is known for, but a lot of fresh water, lots of, places to fish, and just a lot of canyons. So there are some freshwater canyons in there that are just beautiful, close by to Belo. And then third place, I would choose Salvador, which is the capital of Bahia state. And I think if you really want to get into the culture of knowing what Brazil actually is, that's the place. So it was the first capital of the country, when Brazil was, when the Portuguese people were arriving, and colonizing Brazil then. And Brazil has a huge history of slave trade, so it's a fantastic city that has a lot of African traditions, but it's also very old, in the buildings, it's just very culturally protected, so you'd be able to see a lot of that. And it's probably one that have stayed the same instead of catering so much to the tourism like Rio has, so you'd be able to really see, and definitely the best food, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, that's a good representation of Brazil. A bunch of things that I did not know. Definitely not the camping side or the waterfalls and the historical part of it as well. So that coming from Ana Pego, your new head coach for LeMoyne Volleyball, and you are starting January 1st, right? Right at the beginning of the year, you're starting.
Yes, January 1st.
So starting here on the Heights very soon, and appreciate the fact that you took some time here on the Dolphin Dive today to dive into your story and your journey to get to LeMoyne. Congratulations again on taking the position and having the opportunity here, and very much looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to breaking out and dusting off my Portuguese and seeing what I can learn.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And we'll work on that Portuguese. And we, got to plan a trip. You got to go over there. Like, what are you doing? You just got to go.
I've heard good things. I've heard good things. I've just never been there. So I was like, I need, my friend Priscilla that I worked with at Epcot and Walt Disney World, and that I told you about off the air. She would say, "Oh, come down, you got to see it." And I was like, well, I need to know that people I know are going to be there. You know what I mean? Like, let's show me around. Don't just drop me in Brazil. I mean, if you did, I'll figure it out. I know that I'm somebody that can be on my own. I've traveled to most of the places I've been to by myself, but
Mhm.
I would like to. It's a massive country, and so I would like to. And I know that if I went to Brazil and I didn't see people that I had made friendships with, they would kill me if I if I didn't let them know that I was in Brazil. But I definitely would look forward to it. I mean, it's like I said, Portuguese, beautiful language, and very hardworking people. I have nothing but good things to say about everybody that came over from Brazil to Epcot. It was a great experience of getting to kind of see a window into the life, but seeing the country, I'm sure, would be totally different.
Yeah, definitely worth it. So start planning.